All right, PJ, you ready to fill out some NBA playoff brackets here? You ready to predict all the way down to the champion? Let's start in the West. I've got just about all chalk. I'll say it right now. I got just about all chalk in every series, with the exception of one. So in the West, the Thunder, whether it's the Warriors or the Suns, doesn't matter really. I think the Warriors can take a game. I think the Suns probably get swept by the Thunder. I'll go Thunder over either the Warriors or the Suns, and I'll go in 5. The one series that I've got the higher seed winning, and I feel kind of like a square. I feel like a nerd for basically taking all chalk here, but I don't think Luka's coming back before this series ends. Maybe he comes back for like a game 5 if it's 3-1 at that point. Same thing with Austin Reeves. Ultimately, their absences are going to be too big to overcome. I actually think the Lakers can win game 1 tomorrow. But after that, I think the Rockets are just too much. I think despite the fact that they haven't had a point guard all year with Fred VanVleet going down, Amen Thompson has done a decent job doing it, but their fourth quarter offense is so hit or miss. It's basically just relying on Kevin Durant to get ISO buckets and Şengün to play point center. They are a very wobbly team, and I just don't think they're a mentally tough team. They're physically tough, and Udoka's a good coach, but I just don't think they're mentally tough, and I think if their offense collapses in the fourth quarter, they're going to have a tough time winning games after this round when they play the Thunder. I think they have such a good high floor defensively that I think that they're going to be too much for the Lakers to overcome. I'll give the Lakers game 1, and I'll give them game 5 at home, to avoid the gentleman's sweep, but that's about it. Rockets over the Lakers in 6. The Nuggets and the T-Wolves, I think, is going to be an absolute war. I think it's going to be cinema. I think it's going to be amazing. I think Anthony Edwards does end up balling out. I think he'll average 35 points per game in this series. Denver's going to want to push the pace. Minnesota's going to get stuck into that, I think. And I think that if the Timberwolves could rebound better and if they could get better scoring off the bench, they could win this series. I think Denver's got a lot of weaknesses defensively that I think Ant-Man could take over. Naz Reid, despite the fact that he hasn't shot the ball well at all down the stretch, he could play well. We know Randall is, he's one bad play away from flying off the basket there and flying off the rail and then basically melting down. I think Randall will end up having a really good game or 2, and Rudy Gobert will do what Rudy Gobert does. He'll just be a rebound magnet, and he'll try to slow down Jokic, but I think that the experience shines through here, and I think home court advantage shines through. So I think this series goes 7 between the Nuggets and the T-Wolves, but I got Denver winning after some really close games. I could see game 7 being a rout, and I'll take Denver to win it in 7 against Minnesota. Finally, I wish the Spurs would lose in the first round so that Combs, who's been saying for months they're going to win the title, gets proven like a fool. But Portland's got some decent experience. Drew Holiday, Jeremy Grant, those guys know what they're doing in the postseason. And Denny Avdia is a blooming superstar. But San Antonio is just too good defensively. And Wemby in the first round, he's not going to be grinded down physically. They're fresh, they're healthy, they're ready to go. They've got scoring options. Keldon Johnson's one of the best 6 men off the bench in the NBA. So the Spurs will take care of business. Portland will win at least 1 game at home. I don't think too much more than that. I think it's going to be too difficult for them to go into San Antonio and win. So give me the Spurs over the Blazers in 5. Thunder advance, the Nuggets advance, the Spurs advance, and then I guess just by seed, the one mini upset, but without Luka and Reeves, I got the Rockets over the Lakers.
I like it. And Pat, I agree with you, man. I wish I wasn't chalky. I wish I was on here picking some upsets in the first round, and I hope that we get them. But like you, I think really only the competitive series I see is Denver and Minnesota. Regardless of who wins Warriors and Suns tonight, I like OKC to take care of business. Lakers and Rockets, I, too, don't think Luke is going to play. Reeves, just too banged up. Houston's too well coached, and I think they'll get by. I think the Lakers can force that to a 6-game series, but I like the Rockets in 6. You said it, man. Nuggets-Wolves is going to be the series in the first round. That's going to be high-level ball. I think you're going to see a bunch of momentum shifts in that series where I could see Minnesota taking one of the first 2 games in Denver, and then I could see Minnesota being up 2-1 going into game 4. Denver wins that one, and that could be a series where you get multiple games where the road team is winning on the other team's opposing home floor. But I think the Nuggets prevail, and they win that series. And then I too like the Spurs. If Minnesota was the 7 seed, I think Minnesota would have a shot at pulling the upset on San Antonio. But the fact that it's Portland, even though you highlighted some of the guys on their team that have some experience, Denny's playing terrific basketball. I think the Spurs are just going to be a little bit too much for Portland. So like you, Pat, OKC, Houston, Denver, San Antonio all advance into the next round.
So we are not mono y mono. We are simpatico there. Let's go first round in the East. And again, I got all chalk here. I hope that the Hornets win. But I did say before, I think the Magic could maybe push the Pistons more in the first round. I don't see Detroit going down. Cade Cunningham back from the collapsed lung. He looked good in the couple of games that he played. Detroit is just way too good defensively. They're too good rebounding. JB Bickerstaff, who I've got, again, in the postseason, he's had his struggles in years past. When he was Cleveland's head coach, they would get knocked out in the first round or the second round. And then last year, a very young Detroit team, they gave my Knicks a lot of problems, but they ultimately lost in the first round. I just think, again, they have such a high baseline. And, you look at their team on paper and you're like, Duncan Robinson is a starter. Asar Thompson's not even as good as his brother, Amen. They're too sound. And so the Hornets have a ton of inexperience if they get there. The Magic, they have their offense. You can't rely on them. I can't rely on Paolo Banchero. So I think the Pistons, no matter who they play, the Hornets or the Magic, they'll get pushed to 6. But I do think they win in 6 over either of those teams. So Pistons advance. Cavaliers-Raptors, to me, is low-key. It's going to be a series we look back on and we're like, wow, we weren't expecting much from this series, and we ended up getting a whole lot out of it, right? Darko Rajakovic, the Raptors head coach, he's a European. He's talking about, this isn't Galatasaray. We're not playing in Europe where they're throwing water bottles at you and shining lasers in your face. It's just going to be loud. So what? Who cares? I like that mindset. I just think the Raptors are a team that they've beaten bad teams all year, and they've gotten spanked by a lot of good teams. And Cleveland's not that great, right? James Harden, he's a lifetime playoff failure when it matters most. But Spida has the scoring. He's got plenty of play. Go back to Utah. He's capable of averaging 40 in this series. I don't know anybody on Toronto that's going to stop him. Scotty Barnes is going to try. I can't wait for that matchup. I would hope Scotty Barnes is going to be defending Donovan Mitchell. Brandon Ingram, I think, could eat. Excited to see what my former Knicks, Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett can do for Toronto. But I think Cleveland's got too much size. Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are going to control the paint. They're going to control the glass. And so I think this one actually ends up going 7. But I'll take the Cavs. Despite James Harden trying to be like an anchor and hold them down, I think the Cavaliers will win a Game 7 at home against the Raptors. So I got Cleveland advancing. My Knicks, it'll be sweaty. It'll probably be 2-2. And then I think the Knicks win a game 5 at home. And then I think they'll take care of business in Atlanta, and the Hawks in experience. They traded away that loser, Trae Young. They've been much better since then. Jalen Johnson's the superstar of this team, but he doesn't have much playoff experience. Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a walking bucket, but their athleticism, I don't think they're going to score a bunch of points. I'm going to be probably taking the over in all these games. I think all these games are 128, 124, 128, 120. I think there's going to be a ton of points because I think the Hawks can score on the Knicks. I just don't think they can stop them. I don't think they're going to be able to stop Brunson. I don't think, Dyson Daniels is going to try. I don't think they're going to be able to stop OG Anunoby. And Karl-Anthony Towns, as disappointing as he can be at times, he's got a very favorable matchup going up against Onyeka Okongwu and anybody else that the Hawks throw at them in the front court. So Knicks in 6, and then the Sixers, the Celtics, just because they'll have a letdown game, and Philly will shoot the lights out in one game. That's all they get, though, for me, PJ. I think the Boston Celtics crush Philly. So all chalk. Pistons advance, Cavs in 7, Knicks get past the Hawks in 6, and the Celtics beat the 76ers in 5.
I know I want to have an upset in one of these games in the first round because it's probably coming. One of these series, one of these underdogs are going to be more competitive than we all expect. With the Embiid injury to Philly, I don't see them beating Boston in a 7-game series. The winner of Magic Hornets tonight, I think the Hornets could give Detroit a better series, but again, that's a super young team going up against Detroit, who's one of the best offensive and defensive teams in the NBA. Reason why they won over 60 games. I like the Pistons there. 4, 5, 3, 6 games could be interesting. I know people are trying to make the case for the Raptors, but Pat, the thing with Toronto, they really dominated the bad teams in the league this year, and they really struggled against the top teams in the NBA. And going up against Cleveland, who's been a perennial playoff team in kind of this Donovan Mitchell era the last few years, I think they'll have enough to get by Toronto. I will say that series could maybe go 6 or 7, just because it feels like the last few years Cleveland has not been good on the road. in the playoffs. So I could see that series potentially going the distance, but I do like Cleveland. I agree with Knicks in 6. I think Atlanta's going to be pesky. It's funny, the Hawks remind me of the Detroit team from last year. Kind of that surprise that gets in at a 6, and I don't think they're going to be an easy out. So very similar vibes to Knicks Pistons from last year. I think it's going to be the same, but I agree. Pistons, Cavs, Knicks, Celtics, top 4 seeds, I think all moving on.
Okay, so we have all 8 for 8. We are in complete agreement on the first round of the NBA playoffs. I think this is where we get some upsets here. Not to the 1 seeds. Starting in the West, I think the Thunder get past the Rockets, and I think they beat them in 5. I think it's not going to be much of a contest. Again, I think when we get there, Houston's lack of a point guard is going to be detrimental. They're not going to be able to score more than 100, 105 points per game off the Thunder. That's the big difference. The reigning champs are too good. They're going to get past them in 5. And then I do have the upset here, if you'd call it that. But I think the Nuggets can beat the Spurs. I think the playoff inexperience. I think Wemby, wouldn't surprise me if he suffers some kind of soft tissue issue because he physically gets grinded down by a second long series. And so the Nuggets take out the Spurs and they beat them in Denver in Game 6 to finish them off. I got the Nuggets back in the conference finals with a rematch against the Thunder. And then in the East, I think the Cavaliers give the Pistons a hell of a series. And then I think we will have another iteration, PJ, of classic Game 7, James Harden disaster class. It'll be cinema. I think we will deserve it. Pistons, with their defense, get past the Cavaliers in a very scrappy Game 7. And then they did it last year. Nobody thinks they can do it again. That's fine. I'll be here with the last laugh when the Knicks take out the Celtics in Boston in Game 7 this year. They'll do it in Game 7. They'll do it live. The Knicks will beat the Boston Celtics in 7. So I got the Thunder and the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals and the Pistons and the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals.
All right, very good. We are in lockstep in the Western Conference. I, too, like the Thunder over the Rockets. I think it's fair to give the Rockets a game in that series, but Oklahoma City just too much. So I'm with you. They're off to the Western Conference Final. And then I also like the Nuggets to beat the Spurs. I think that's going to be a heck of a series, but we've seen Jokic have some success against Wemby. I mean, Denver comes into this postseason winners of 12 straight. They got the best offense in the NBA. Jokic is looking like himself. Murray's playing terrific. Aaron Gordon's been great as well. And I think you're going to see the experience of Denver show its form in that series. So I also have Thunder Nuggets Western Conference Final. And then in the East, I actually have the Cleveland Cavaliers with an upset over Detroit. I think Cleveland's going to the Eastern Conference Final. Teams like the Pistons that are 1 seeds in the NBA normally that have this magical season. They win over 60 games. They, look great on a sheet of paper. They check off all these metrics and everything. I tend to like to fade those teams in the semis, like anytime you have a surprise one, they don't really tend to go all that far in the NBA Finals. Just like off the top of my head, OKC 2 years ago when they were a surprise one, everybody wasn't taking them serious. Luka, Kyrie, and Dallas beat them. There was a year with Atlanta when like Kyle Korver and Josh Smith and that team was a 1 seed. They lost early. Donovan Mitchell when he was in Utah and they were a 1 seed. They lost. So the Pistons are kind of giving me that vibe. And I still don't know if it's quite their time yet. And I think Cleveland, who's obviously trying to mix it up, going all in with the Harden trade, I think they get to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I'll go the Cavs upsetting the Pistons. Celtics-Knicks is a tough one, man. That feels like a 7-game series, could go either way. Knicks got them last year. I think Boston gets them this year. But that's going to be a heck of a series. So I'll go with the Cavs and the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Final.
So you got Cavs, Celtics. I got Knicks, Pistons. We both have Thunder, Nuggets in the West Finals. I think the reigning champs are getting back to the finals, and I think they'll alternate wins. So I'm going to be 1-0 OKC, then 1-1, then 2-1 Thunder, then 2-2, then 3-2 Thunder, and then I think they get them in Denver to close it out. Thunder in 6 over the Nuggets, and the Knicks in another long, grinding series knock out the Pistons in a Game 7 in Detroit. Second straight series, the Knicks win a Game 7 on the road. I got Thunder and my New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. PJ, what about you?
I'm actually going with Denver to upset OKC, Pat. Last year, the Thunder played 2 7-game series. It was against the Nuggets and it was against the Pacers. Formula to beat them is elite offensive teams, and Denver has that yet again. I think this year they get them. And then I'll go with the Celtics over the Cavs. So I got Nuggets, Celtics, NBA Finals and give me the Denver Nuggets to win it all. I think Jokic
Wow.
gets his second ring. So I'll take the Nuggets, man. I'm buying what they're selling right now. I love how they're looking, and I think they're going to win the whole thing.